You know, when we think about what it takes to get rich, we usually jump to things like, oh, you have to be a genius or have some brilliant Ivy League education. But what if I told you that financial success has surprisingly little to do with how smart you are and almost everything to do with how you behave?
To really get what I mean, let me tell you about two guys. On one hand, you've got Ronald Reed, a janitor from Vermont. Super simple, low-key life. On the other hand, you have Richard Fuscone, a Harvard-educated, big-shot executive at Merrill Lynch. I mean, you literally couldn't find two people from more different financial worlds.
Okay, but here's where the story gets really interesting. One of these men quietly became a philanthropist, donating millions to his local hospital and library. The other, despite his fancy degree and massive income, went completely bankrupt. So, take a guess, who was the one who died with an $8 million fortune?
It was Ronald Reed, the janitor. And his method, it was almost shockingly simple. No complex algorithms, no secret stock tips. He just saved whatever little bit of money he could, put it into good, solid blue-chip stocks. And then he just waited. For decades, he let the quiet, unstoppable magic of compounding do its thing, turning his tiny savings into a fortune.
So what about Richard Fuscone, the Harvard MBA? Well, he did the exact opposite. He borrowed huge sums of money to live this ridiculously extravagant life. We're talking a mansion so big it had 11 bathrooms and 2 swimming pools. So when the 2008 financial crisis hit, poof, it all fell apart. He got completely wiped out. You see, the difference wasn't about brains. It was about behavior. It was greed versus patience.
This whole story perfectly sets up the two very different sides of wealth. So first, let's talk about playing offense, the skills you need to actually get rich in the first place.
The fascinating thing is, the mindset for getting wealthy is almost always an aggressive one. It's about taking risks, right? It's about being optimistic, sometimes ridiculously so, and having the courage to put yourself and your money out there on the line.
So the offensive playbook is pretty clear. You take risks. You stay optimistic even when things look bleak. You put yourself out there. This is the part of the money game that gets all the headlines, all the attention.
But here's where the entire story just flips on its head. As the author Morgan Housel says, getting money is one thing, keeping it is another. And this simple idea is where so many people get it wrong.
So let's flip the coin and talk about playing defense. This requires a completely different and honestly way more important set of skills. These are the skills you need to stay wealthy.
The mindset for keeping your money is pretty much the polar opposite of the one for getting it. It's not about taking risks, it's about being terrified of them. It's about humility, knowing you might have gotten lucky and having a healthy fear that the money you made can disappear just as quickly as it came.
So the defensive playbook? It looks totally different. It's filled with things like humility, fear, saving your money, and even a little bit of paranoia. It's all about protecting what you have, not just chasing more. Ronald Reed played defense, Richard Fuscone, all offense, all the time.
And that's the key takeaway right there. Think about it. There are a million different ways to get wealthy, but there's really only one way to stay wealthy, a combination of being frugal and being paranoid that you could lose it all.
All of this, the offense and the defense, it all boils down to one single, unbreakable rule: survive. That's it. Just staying in the game is the most powerful financial skill there is.
And if you don't think survival is that big of a deal, check this out. A staggering 40% of all public companies with CEOs and boards and entire departments eventually lose all of their value. They go to zero. If it can happen to them, it can absolutely happen to you.
That's why Housel says if you had to boil all of money success down to a single word, it would just be survival. Not genius, not timing, not strategy, just survival.
So the path to wealth that actually lasts is a really simple 2-step process. Step 1, survive. Avoid getting wiped out, no matter what. Only then do you earn the right to move to step 2, just stick around long enough to let that incredible power of compounding do all the heavy lifting for you.
The writer Nassim Taleb put it perfectly. You can have a brilliant strategy, a real edge, but it's completely worthless if you don't survive long enough to let it play out. Avoiding ruin isn't just part of the game. It's the ticket to even be allowed to play.
Okay, so how do you actually do this? How do you put a survival mindset into practice? Well, it all comes down to one core concept: building yourself a margin for error. Or, put more simply, it's about having a plan for when your plan doesn't go according to plan.
This is what investors call a margin of safety.
And it's not about being pessimistic, it's about being realistic. It's the cushion, the buffer you create between your rosy expectations and the harsh reality of a world that will absolutely throw you a curveball.
The legendary investor Benjamin Graham said the whole point of a margin of safety is to render the forecast unnecessary. Just think about how powerful that is. If you have enough room for error, you don't need a crystal ball. You can be wrong about the future and still come out okay.
Because at the end of the day, here's the truth. A plan is only useful if it can survive contact with reality. And reality is messy and unpredictable. A robust plan doesn't ignore that fact, it embraces it by building in that wiggle room.
So I'll leave you with this question to really think about. You have a plan to succeed. We all do. But the most important question, the one that really matters, is what's your plan for when that plan goes wrong? Because that, right there, is the secret to not just getting wealthy, but staying that way.